Alright then lads, welcome back to the Cossy Arsenal podcast. My name is Cossy. Welcome back to a brand new video. This is the latest Arsenal news and transfer news as well. I'm with Glenn for the Cossy and Glenn podcast, but also major importantly to talk about the forward situation as it has been revealed by Kaya Kainak and SR Collins that Arsenal are now focusing to sign a midfielder and a striker as priorities after signing Ricardo Calafiori. Good evening to you, Glenn. How are you doing? A little bit cold here, but we are here.
I can see you're freezing. But you still do the content. Well done to Cossy, guys. Still freezing, poor guy, and still does content. But I'm doing good. Hopefully transfers are starting to happen. The players are already in the USA now. Preseason, when the preseason starts, you get to know like the season is about to start now. So I cannot wait to see what happens with the rest of the transfer window.
Yeah, 100%. Now, definitely, guys, Ricardo Calafiori, what can I say? We've talked about that one. It's pretty much done. However, the big question is who is going to be next? What are we going to do next? A couple of outlets were reporting that Arsenal could actually ignore the forwards market and then focus on the midfielders and goalkeepers and then revisit the forwards market in the near future. That is not going to happen. According to Kaya Kainak and SR Collins from The Standard, Kaya Kainak, of course, reports for Football London. They both have reported today that Arsenal have now set a striker, stroke forward, as next priority in this window. And let's start off there, Glenn. Are you happy with the next two priorities that we've set? Midfielder, Mikel Merino looks like he's the one. And then forward, are those the areas where we are, lacking at the moment?
Yeah, before the transfer window started, I said my two priorities are midfielder first and then striker and then followed by a winger and then defender would be fourth, but we ended up signing a defender first, no problem. So for the next step, midfielder and striker, I think that is the correct way to go. Those are the only few positions that we can really improve. All of us are happy with the centre-back situation. We are happy with Raya in goal. We are happy with Saka, happy with Odegaard, happy with Rice. So the only few positions where we are trying to improve right now are striker, winger, and midfielder. Now, Partey, if he does stay, it really benefits us a lot because it does help us in terms of not having to get two midfielders. But if he doesn't stay, we might end up needing two midfielders. But if Partey could promise us, if we could know that Partey is going to be fit for the entire season, like it would be such a huge advantage knowing that you can even get to spend that money on a winger and spend that money on a striker and then maybe go cheap on a midfielder. But I think that's the correct way to go. Midfield is very, very important because of Partey's injuries, and striker is very important because majority of Arsenal fans think we do need a striker because our striker is not clinical, but also because of the Jesus injuries and stuff. You cannot really depend on him. Even if you're scoring 30 goals per season, you can't really depend on him because he can get injured anytime. And considering Havertz is not yet back as well at the moment, we are kind of lacking in these positions because Nketiah is leaving, Nelson could be leaving, so we are a bit short in those positions.
Now, just to give you an update on the midfield situation, Arsenal look at a midfielder as priority, and Mikel Merino is priority on the midfielder list. And reports coming out of Spain is that Mikel Merino is very, very eager to come back to the Premier League, and he looks at Arsenal's project as much better than the projects at Barcelona and Atletico Madrid. Arsenal have initiated initial talks with Mikel Merino's camp, and let's see where that one is going to lead. We have 7 days or even more to get that one done. Now, Glenn, it looks like it's going to be one. It's not going to be two. A winger is wanted, but a striker is wanted as well. It doesn't strike me this summer that we're going to go and sign a winger and then sign a striker. So where does the priority now lie? Because yes, we want a forward and then we want a midfielder. We know that we're going for forward, but the forward is split into two. Striker, stroke winger. In wingers, we've been linked with Nico Williams as priority, but also starting with the beginning of the transfer window, Fabrizio reported that Arsenal were big on a centre forward. Arsenal wanted to sign a centre forward. We almost signed one. If Sesko didn't actually turn back and say, I'm going to stay at Leipzig, we could have a centre forward now. We could be talking about very, very different things, and we'll be very, very different on a different stage in the window. So I think that's the first conversation we've got had. Honestly, as Arsenal fans, do we need a winger more? Do we need a striker more?
We need a wing. We are not a winger. We need a striker more for sure. Now, at the moment, right now, obviously, we don't have anyone that's playing there. Martinelli is not yet back. Saka is not yet back. Trossard is not yet back. So you can argue we do need a winger. But for winger, for me, I was not looking for a starter. I was looking for someone to just come and back up Saka. We were really fortunate to have Trossard scoring those goals last season. Hopefully, if he can repeat that now, if he can combine what he had the last 2 seasons, because when he came to Arsenal, I think he had like 11 assists between that time and the end of the season, and like 1 goal. And last season, he didn't really pick up too many assists, but he picked up a lot of goals. So if you can get 10 goals, 10 assists from Trossard, that would be big. And then if Martinelli does have a season like he had in 22-23, that would be beneficial. So you're only really looking for a backup for Saka, because we've always complained about Saka playing too many games, getting fouled a lot, no backup. And last season, what we've seen the last 8 months, it's become worse, because now we've seen him missing games, big games, Man City, Everton on the last day because of injuries and playing too much. And on top of that, he's gone to England and played 7 games all the way to the final of extra time. So he's even more tired, and he's only going to have like a 2-week break, and then he's back. So we do need a backup for Saka, but we have other players who can play there at the moment. You can try.
That is what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say, that looks like the squad is a little bit of self-healing in terms of who can back up for Saka.
So the likes of Jesus, the likes of those players can back up for Saka. But before I come to that, I do want a wing. I do want a winger, yes, but I want a striker first. Now, I think getting a striker would just motivate everyone, like in the fan base, in the team, in the club, the players, and also in the terms of the opposition, the likes of Man City, they look at us like, oh, Arsenal really needed a striker, and they've gotten one. Whichever striker we are going to get, I feel like a striker is very, very big, because that is one of the positions we can improve. Now, as I always say to Cossy, and as I always say to everyone, I know Cossy knows what I'm about to say. If you don't have a striker, we'll still finish second. But to finish to beat Man City, we do need a striker, because there's some games there that one chance we could have had the advantage. Newcastle away, Aston Villa away, those kind of games. If you get one chance, you need to score. A striker would bring a lot of beneficial things to this team. And over the last 3 years, we've tried a lot of things. We've tried different goalkeepers. We've tried signing defenders. We're bringing back defenders who on loan. We've tried new right backs for 50 million. We've tried new left backs. We've tried midfielders with Rice and Partey and all those guys, Jorginho, all the midfielders, younger midfielders. The one that we've never really tried about from Jesus is a striker. Let's try a striker. As we always say, if it doesn't work out, then you go and try something else you didn't try last time, maybe get an explosive wing or something like that. Now, I actually do think, yes, Calafiori would be like the second signing after Raya if you're not counting such for the naked, but I do feel like we could see something. I think we're going to get a striker and get a midfielder like Merino, and then it's going to be quiet all the way until like the end of August, like it was with Raya. And then I feel like we're going to get a winger like we did Raya, a loan with an obligation to buy, and then maybe they buy him next season or something. I don't know how many wingers would be available for that, but I think they could try and do that. Now, it could also happen with the striker. Maybe you could get a wing, and then they're like, okay, is there like a 20-25 million striker available? We can, pay something right now, and then or loan with an obligation to buy next season. We could have like a rare. So I'd not be surprised if you do end up getting those 4 players, but it still sounds like a lot of players, because something you always say is we are going to have a bit of boring windows, because you don't need too many players. You could be signing 1 or 2. So I don't know if they're going to get 4. The only reason I feel like we're going to get 4 is because you're going to sell players as well. And we've already lost Elneny and Cedric, and Tomiyasu is injured again. Now, don't be surprised to see another defender coming in. So I think we're going to get a total of 4 players. But let's see how it goes with that one. But yeah, I think we're going to get a winger with an obligation to buy or something.
Yeah, but so personally, I thought that a center forward was our primary targets and primary need, and then a midfielder that replaced Thomas Partey, and then a winger. And I remember saying to you that I would invest 100 million on a Kavicha Kvaratskhelia or 100 million on a Rafael Leao. And then I would also invest like 75 million on a player like Victor Gyökeres, because for me, I don't think that the forward line let us down last season. No, not at all. But I also don't think that the forward line was as, I would say, outstanding as the other departments. I think the midfield was fantastic. I think the defense was impeccable. And inside Arsenal, they were trying to tell Mikel Arteta, why are you even trying to sign another defender? You conceded 29 goals last season. What is this is madness. This is crazy. You're just obsessed with defenders, in every market. So I think that I want to ask you this. Do you think that our forward line would stand by itself the way the likes of Bellingham, Vinicius, and Rodrigo did for Madrid? Do you think that that forward line gives you the vibes of if we don't get goals from other departments, if we don't get help from other departments, this forward line can actually go and challenge by itself?
Now you can make an argument for both. People, most of you watching, I'm sure you think Jesus and Havertz are not like good enough in terms of scoring 20 plus goals. Fair enough. Now, I do think in terms of improvement, I do think we could see some improvement. So Havertz's second season, maybe is now more used to the team, a bit more confident with the finishing that he had at the end of the season. And on top of that, now we're going to start with him as a striker, not really as a midfielder, and experimenting like we did last season. So maybe we can see more numbers from him, but not depend on him. What I'm hoping is Jesus, because I don't want Jesus to be sold. I'm really praying he has a season that he had in the first season with us. So if they do have that, we are going to get more goals and assists there. But if you want to completely destroy teams and one chance, one goal in big games, then I think you need some extra ability in those positions. Now, the likes of Odegaard, we know we've gotten 15 goals from Odegaard in a season. If he does that, and then you have Saka improving in his numbers and have Martinelli back in his 2022-23 Martinelli, you can argue you can get as many goals, because if Martinelli had scored like 10 goals last season, we are talking 100 goals in the Premier League last campaign. But the problem is the first season, there's a bunch of players who did well. And then the second season, we had, Saka scoring, Havertz scoring, Trossard scoring, but Martinelli and Odegaard and those guys weren't scoring a lot. So I'm hoping next season they do improve in their numbers. So that is the first argument. You can argue that you're expecting them to improve and score more goals, and Havertz has settled in more. But you can also say that, Jesus is not clinical. You can say Havertz, is he going to miss chances? Are we going to, depend on them to score one-on-one chances if you only have one chance against Liverpool or Man City? Then maybe not. So I think a striker is needed, because as I always say as well, it improves the rest of the players. The other players feel like, okay, this is taking away a lot of pressure from us. You're playing with more freedom as well. The likes of Saka and Odegaard. Odegaard knows, if I create this 100 plus chances again, like he did last season, there's someone who can score them, because Odegaard had like less than 10 assists or something. Is it 10?
Yeah, less than 10. I think he had around 9 or 8.
100 chances created,
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a guy. That's a guy that is creating around 3.5 chances, goal scoring opportunities a game.
So if you do a math with that, that means people are converting like 10% of his chances. So
he's already missed out on 2 assists with Edin Ketia preseason.
So when you put it like that, you need to splash 300 million at striker immediately. So I do think, personally, still do think Arsenal can score goals. Like even if you give us Man United this week, and I would not be surprised if you can score 3 goals with Trossard and Havertz if he's gonna be there and Jesus on the pitch. I wouldn't be surprised. But the problem is, can you depend on them every single day, every single week, plus the Champions League where you can come up against Bayern again, Real Madrid? I don't think so. But I still did think we need a striker. But in terms of them standing alone, I think it's a bit too much of an ask, because none of them has really ever scored that many goals in the Premier League in a season. So I think they would need some help also, just to take away pressure from them.
Now, I remember some of the big teams under Ferguson and what he was trying to do with them. At some point in time, he had Tevez, Rooney in the same team. I think Berbatov as well. Did he have 3 of them in the same team? And then as that era was coming to an end, he poached Ruben Van Persie. And that shows you that, and the goals that Van Persie scored, they are goals that anyone could score. But the impact of those goals is what we call striker goals. Striker goals that come in at a time where you absolutely need them. Goals to turn games around. Goals to just to expand the margin by which you're leading. Or that 1-0, that 2-1 difference. And Ruben Van Persie, that's how he
literally came in and won them the league immediately.
Immediately, and I think that was like a super move for for Ferguson. So let's start off with Victor Gyökeres, because he is the player that has a lot of optimism, but also among other players that Arsenal have been linked with as strikers, most of them are gone, Glenn. Most of them have either settled for the projects that they are at, or most of them have actually gone to another club. Zaxi has found a club. Sesko has settled. Osimhen was going to PSG. We'll talk about him, and probably Arsenal have now to think about him. But other players have slowly but surely moved on, apart from Victor Gyökeres. So I think at this point in the window, do you think that we already know who we are going to try to sign, or do you think we're still looking at a pool of options?
I think 80% we know the players we are going to sign, and then 20%
Mm,
they're looking at could anyone become available, after
mm, mm.
after like getting closer to the season, could anyone become cheaper, could any price be reduced, could a team maybe be in need of money and they're trying to sell a striker all of a sudden. I think there's that chance they could go for someone like that. But I think 80% they know who they're going for, because at the end of July, I don't think at 10 they do are like, okay, who can we get? Let's try and get.
No,
Is there
no,
any
yeah,
player at
yeah.
Newcastle? Is there any player at Girona? No, I think they already know which players they want. I think in terms of a pool of strikers, I think they could have maybe like 3 or 4 names there,
Mm.
and then wingers maybe 3 of them, and then a couple of midfielders and maybe an extra defender or something. So maybe a total of 10 players that they're looking at. But I don't think it's as more than that. Back in the day, we would have like a pool
How?
of like 300
Ah.
players, including realistic and
Yeah,
realistic,
and
Ibrahimovic,
unrealistic as well.
Ronaldo.
Yeah.
That didn't matter. So I think they do have a slight pool of players, like less than 10, though not too many. And anyway, we've sat down and tried to look at strikers, because I can see people in the comments saying Isaac and Watkins. You're not going to sign Watkins. Aston Villa
Yeah,
are not going to
exactly.
sign Watkins this close to the season. No chance. Even if they were to try, they would tell you 200 million, and they wouldn't be joking. And there's no need of Watkins really to leave Aston Villa right now. They're in the Champions League, so I don't see why he needs to leave. Isaac is a different case. They're not in the Champions League, but again, if people have been complaining about Calafiori's deal taking 2 weeks. If you try to get Isaac right now, you're going to get him like
That's
on
a
August
month.
31st. You're going
Yeah,
to like
that's a
deal
month.
with it for like 5-6 weeks before you get him. And it's not only going to be you. Other teams will be like, oh, Isaac
Other
is
teams will
going.
be there.
Let's try and get him. So those deals are not easy. So people
Yeah.
have mentioned Jimenez and those guys. So I think Gyökeres is the only one that I feel like it's possible.
Yeah. Now, for me, Gyökeres is the possible one, plausible one as well, and I think he's the realistic one. And where I want us to start with Victor Gyökeres is about the pricing of the player, because at least one thing we've seen with Napoli this summer is they have consistently asked for a club to trigger the release clause of Victor Osimhen, and PSG have said no, we're not going to do that. Do you think Sporting Lisbon are going to do that as well? I mean, we have seen 2 scenarios here. We have seen Benfica with João Neves say we've never said that he's only going for 120 million euros. We will negotiate it down, and then we've seen clubs like Napoli said, no, we are not going to negotiate. You've got to pay the 130 million euros in the contract of the player, and you've got to trigger the release clause. So it's the pricing. And Arsenal have always been tipped to go back to this situation, with Fabrizio reporting in June and the beginning of July that Arsenal have already collected information on this deal. Arsenal already know what's gonna cost to sign him in terms of wages, salaries, terms and conditions, add-ons, and everything. But the price is still very, very hiked, and they think if it can come down, they can actually go and sign him. So do we see the price of Victor Gyökeres come down, or do we see Arsenal budge eventually and go and pay 100 million euros?
I don't think we'll budge. I think Sporting are the ones who are going to budge. Now, I remember throughout the 2 months we've been saying, let's be patient, Gyökeres, the price will drop eventually. They're not going to get that 100 million. Now, if it sounds crazy, Cossy, but I actually kind of more confident that Gyökeres could happen more than a Merino. Yes, Merino is cheaper and all that, but because we are not, Merino is wanted by other teams. I don't think there's too many teams that are looking at Gyökeres in terms of, Chelsea already have Nkunku and Jackson. United already signed a striker. They already have Højlund. Man City okay with Haaland. The teams have Isaac, teams have Watkins. Which other team could have gone for him? Maybe a Liverpool. They already have Nunes and those guys. But the only one they're really looking for a striker. Because even if you look at Bayern,
I think Bayern would have been a threat, but they have Kane now.
Maybe even a Madrid. They have Mbappe now. Yeah. So PSG, they could have Osimhen by the time you're trying to go for Gyökeres. So there's not too many. Lukaku could go to a Napoli. So there's not too many strikers that are available. But Gyökeres, I feel like we've already agreed personal terms. They say like terms we've talked to him before, and he would be happy to join Arsenal. And considering it's not like strictly 100 million. Actually, in pounds, it's like 83 million pounds.
83 million pounds, yeah.
So if they take that down to like 70, that all of a sudden becomes around the same money that we paid for Havertz. So if you could find a way to negotiate, I think they'll need to budge themselves. I know I've always said that they don't really need to sell him because they have other players to be sold, but they haven't really sold those other players. The Diomandis and the Inacios, they're not really followed Sporting that much, but I think those players are still there. So if they feel like Gyökeres is the one they can sell and to get money to invest for themselves for next season, then they would need to drop it down. And not even that much, because it's not like he was like 110 million from 83 to even 68, 69, and then they find a way to get add-ons and include other stuff in the deal, I think it could still happen. Now I don't know when it could happen, if it's tomorrow or next week or after the season has already started. I still think it is a possibility. And considering there's not too many options, I know we've been told you're going for younger strikers. I know we've been told that we could get for 6 secret signings from different clubs. But if it doesn't happen, there's not too many. So I'd not be surprised if we went and got Gyökeres. So I'm more confident of Gyökeres than Merino, actually.
Now, the coach of side people are saying that Arsenal really like Gyökeres and they would consider him going for him at a reduced price, but also they would consider going for Toney. I remember saying this to you on the Everything Arsenal channel, that this one is one that I think will happen later on, because clubs will be waiting for that price to drop a little bit. And I was like, this one might happen even in August. The market runs on until 30th August. This could run until 20th August, as maybe Mikel maybe doesn't feel like a striker is a big priority. But with Victor Gyökeres, the other second condition, the first condition is the money to drop down, but the second condition is an outgoing. Now, Al Ahly have made Gabriel Jesus top priority for them, and Marseille have made Edin Nketiah top priority for them. Marseille have also sent in an offer to Arsenal for Edin Nketiah. They've also sent an offer to Edin Nketiah's Entourage for the player's personal terms. Gyökeres would, for me, be at the same level as Gabriel Jesus in terms of getting minutes. Because when you look at Edin Nketiah, he's a player that is okay with playing 15 games and split into five starts or 7 starts and 8 off the bench. With Gabriel Jesus, his salary, his money, and his talent as a player, by the way, that's something that we rarely don't talk about at times, people like me. He's very talented. He expects to play at least 20 games, minimum 20 games in a season. If you brought in a player like Gyökeres alongside Havertz and Jesus, I don't think you're going to have enough game time to split in between them. The only advantage there is that Gabriel Jesus can play left, right as well. So do you think that a Gabriel Jesus departure could accelerate the Gyökeres deal?
If Jesus did end up leaving, then I think it kind of makes it very obvious that we could go for Gyökeres. Because again, if you sold Gabriel Jesus and then you went and got a 19-year-old striker, would you be satisfied with that, or would you rather keep
Doesn't
Jesus?
make sense. Yeah, very makes
sense. I had Jesus is wanted by Saudi Arabia. It depends. I still don't want Jesus to leave, and it depends how much money they're coming with. I don't think they're going to come with 50, 60 million. I think they would offer something like 30 million, and I don't think that is good business at all. So if it depends on departures, we know that Nketiah could be leaving for around 30. But the thing is, with Nketiah, they're not paying us money right now. Marseille are talking about obligation to buy next season. Smith Rowe, we could get the money now if he does leave. Nelson, teams have gone quiet. I'm hearing West Ham are going to sign Somerville. They're trying to sign him. So I'm not sure if Nelson is going to go right now. We have to wait and see as well. So yeah, we could get some money in terms of selling players. But I think I don't think we should be replacing too many players. I think we should be adding on players. Left back, I understand. Left back, absolutely no. But I think Calafiori brings us to the next level. I don't want Partey to leave and then we replace him. No, I want Partey to stay someone to add to his potential. We've already gotten rid of a couple of other players, and I want Jesus to send and add to whatever we already have. I don't want Jesus to leave and then we get another striker. Just keep Jesus and get another striker. I know it's very difficult to fit all of them, especially now if you get another striker and Jesus stays. That means Nketiah has to leave. Like there's no way you're going to play there. So if we have the ball and you're playing a back three, there's a way you could have 2 strikers. Now, Jesus would be the one now to play the Nketiah role. Unfortunately for him, I think he'd be the one to be on the bench most of the times. Maybe some games you'd start like in the Champions League, and then I'd still think he'd play more games than Nketiah. But we've always said the problem is depending on him. We can't depend on him because of the injuries and that stuff. So I think if he does leave, then I think we go to like 95% you're going to sign Gyökeres. As of now, it could be like 60% that you're going to sign Gyökeres. So I think it does accelerate it if he does leave.
Yeah. So Al Ahly are saying that Gabriel Jesus is on top of their list, and they have not yet made an offer yet, but he's valued at around 55 million. I think that's a little bit less than what we got him for. Did we get him for around 60?
Jesus, I think it was around, no, I think less than that. I think that would be a profit. Is that 55 million euros or pounds? If it's pounds, I think that would be a profit. And how old is Jesus right now? Is he like 28, 27, around there?
27. He's around 27.
I don't know, man. If this deal was happening next season, I'd be like, okay, I still feel like he can give us something this season, bro. I still feel like he can give us something this season. But yeah, I mean, if you start telling us 50, 60 million, then I think a lot of Arsenal fans would say, yes, that is good money, get it and use it elsewhere. I think a lot of people would say that. So it depends. Do you personally think, like, do you think is a definite improvement on Jesus, like 100%? Even you would be able to ignore the Jesus experience of the Premier League?
I wouldn't say 100%. That would be like an overrating. Gyökeres. I mean, Jesus has been a winner with Manchester City. That puts him in different category. And I also think that his versatility puts him as a different kind of forward, a forward that Mikel Arteta loves, players that can play in different areas. But I would say, if we are to have two strikers at the club, I would say 100% Gyökeres would be like an upgrade on the second striker, whether that is Nketiah or Gabriel Jesus, because for me, it's about finishing. It's about that final ball, but then it's also about center forward play. And I think with Kai Havertz, the reason as to why his signing has been really, really successful in the later part of the season was his center forward play. He's got that ability. He runs forward rather than running backwards. So when you look at Edin Ketia and Gabriel Jesus, they run more backwards and they try to get on the ball in midfield. Allow other players run into, run past them and, involve them into play. With Kai Havertz, he runs forward. He makes a lot of forward runs. And that's a good send forward because he literally, stretches the back line and then he leaves a lot of space for other players to occupy, especially the likes of Trossard and the likes of Gabriel Jesus as well. So I would say Gyökeres, in terms of center forwards, he would be an upgrade on all the center forwards we have right now. But in terms of general forward play, no, I think there are more benefits that a player like Gabriel Jesus really comes
And
with.
would Jesus want to go there, though? I don't think Jesus would want to go to Saudi Arabia right now.
I don't think he would go. But I mean, we've seen Moussa Diaby go. That's a shock one, a
I was
shocking
shocked.
one.
Yeah, I was
I was
shocked.
shocked. I was shocked. They wanted him last summer. He turned them down. And after having a very good season for Villa, going to the Champions League, he's actually accepted an offer to go there. So again, you never know. What could happen. Now, the other player is that's linked with Arsenal in center forward, position is Ivan Toney. So Man United want him strongly, which is a kind of not a surprise for me. But I'm surprised because they've just signed Zaxi and now they're going for Ivan Toney. But Toney, according to Court of Side, is another player that Arsenal appreciate. And despite the fact that we were told Arsenal and Mikel Arteta don't like him, there is this and that, I think still a very, very good block in terms of a center forward player. So Ivan Toney, if we don't get Gyökeres, would you swap him out for Edin Ketia and first and foremost, and then secondly, do you see him become as important as a real starter for us?
Swap him out for Edin Ketia, yes, I would. I mean, yes, he does have those issues, but I don't think like he's Roy Keane kind of hard head, to the point where you can't control him. I don't think he's at that point. And that Premier League experience and all that, he's a player who can make a difference. We saw him coming off the bench for England a couple of times. He made a difference, especially the first one he came on. I think he assisted Kane's goal and he was looking sharp in that extra time against, was it Slovenia or Slovakia, one of them. He was really good in that game. So he can make an impact. Now, if you are signing Ivan Toney as an upgrade from Nketiah, so you mean Havertz and Jesus stay, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of that, I think Ivan Toney would want to tell us, I want to be first team. I'm better than Havertz. I'm better than Jesus. I think you'd want to be first team. But I think if you have Toney as the same level of Jesus, fair enough. So in terms of that, that means you can rotate them without either of them being too mad about not playing. So, you can have this one playing in 2 games and then this one comes on and then this one starts and then this one comes on, depending on the kind of a game. In terms of rotation, I think Ivan Toney would be great in terms of what he brings differently with Jesus, because Jesus, as we've said, he wants to come to midfield, get involved in duels, run to the left side, run to the right side, wing play, bit of skill here and there, all that. And Ivan Toney just wants to get in the box, head the ball, hold up the ball, penalties, tap-ins, second ball, rebounds, and all that. Ivan Toney wants to deal with all that. So I think in terms of combination, I think it would be a good combination to have between those 2-3 players plus Havertz there. It would be great. I would like to see Havertz and Ivan Toney. That work, like that combination of those two. That is interesting. But I think they're a bit It's similar, not really. Ivan Toney
They're
obviously
they're a
wanted
little
to.
bit similar. They're a little bit
Mm,
similar, and they're a bit, I would say, physical, physical oriented. But
mm.
I think the movement on the ball is what differentiates them. I think Kai Havertz is a very intelligent player on the ball, and Ivan Toney is more like of a very, very direct player.
Yeah, so I would take him. I would take Tony if that is if all the other strikers are not available, and you feel like okay, we are running out of options here. I would go for him. Now, I still see people saying sell Jesus and sell Nketiah, both of them. If you sell both of them, you're missing something on the bench then, because
Yeah, obviously, yeah. The squad,
yeah,
you've got to build the squad.
you need someone on the bench. You can't just sell all of them. And I even saw someone in my comments yesterday saying sell Havertz immediately, and I didn't know how to answer that because I don't want to tell people, "Are you serious? You did
Immediately.
this last season?" Because he still got 20 goal contributions, so I don't think he was terrible.
Ivan Toney in, Gabriel Jesus out.
No, no. I don't want Jesus to be replaced by Tony. Jesus gives us so much. I don't know. Tony will come. Now, let me tell you something about Tony. How many seasons has he been in the Premier League? In terms of goals, he scores goals. But if you look at his conversion and all that, and how many goals are not penalties, how many are they? There's a season he scored like 20, and like 10 of them were penalties.
No penalty.
So yes, he'll add something to your team. But which qualities does Tony have, and which qualities does Jesus have? I think Jesus has more qualities than Tony in the team.
Yeah.
I think he does. Like Tony will come and play for you one position, first of all, just one. You cannot have Tony on the wing. You cannot have him as a number 10. You cannot rotate him and all that. In terms of those duels and all that, yes, he's good. But I think Jesus gives us a lot more in terms of experience and winning mentality. I think Jesus has all that more. So in terms of conversions, I'd like to, I don't know who's better in terms of finishing. I'd like to have them give all of them 20 one-on-ones, and I see who's going to score more. I'd want to
21
see
on
that.
ones.
Yeah,
I
for
wouldn't.
both
I
of
wouldn't. I wouldn't really back any Arsenal striker with 1v1s. Like,
them.
I think the player I can back with 1v1s at Arsenal would have been Gabriel Martinelli. But last season he was very underwhelming. But he's still the one that I feel like in 1v1s he knows how to bend and find the corners. And maybe Leandro Trossard as well. Those are the two players I would back 1v1.
Tony in,
I
Jesus out. Hell no.
Okay,
Hell no.
Ivan
You'll
Toney,
need a lot of time to convince me for that one.
Ivan Toney up top, but Kai Havertz dropped back into the midfield.
Oh, I think we need a different midfield. I would prefer Havertz up front. So again, that one is a no as well because it didn't work out for us. Havertz in midfield did not work out for us. It did for 2-3 games, like Luton away. Havertz and Jesus had a great combination in that game throughout the second half. There were the reasons why we came back from 3-2 down in that game. They did well, but there's a lot others that obviously having Havertz as a midfield, they basically have like two strikers if it goes to the midfield, but then you're asking a lot from Declan Rice in that midfield. Again, if Havertz is going forward and Havertz is not really coming back to defend and all that, I just prefer Havertz being up front. Even if he misses 2 chances, just stay up front, just get involved, just get get those chances, get in those positions. But Havertz is a midfielder, Tony is a striker. No, I want Rice as a number 8 because so if you're saying that, you also mean Rice goes back to number 6, which we both don't want. I want Rice to play as a number 8 and I want Partey to stick as a number 6.
So there's a big question on the striker situation that I've actually noticed, and I've asked myself this question before, and I've ignored it, on purpose. And that question would be: if we brought in a player like Toney or Gyökeres, what kind of changes do we actually make? But before we talk about that, Osimhen is not going to PSG at the moment. So PSG are saying, first and foremost, they have to move on Randall Kalumuani and also move on Goncalo Ramos, which is not easy. They signed them, I think each of them like at 60 and above million, which was crazy.
Last
in
season, right?
Yeah, in one transfer summer. So that they spent like 150 million on them. But then also, Arsenal been linked with Osimhen before. So like him not going to PSG right now opens up a little window. Do you think Arsenal are looking to spend as much as his release clause, or you think no chance we're going to go for for such an amount this summer? Because for me, I don't see it as a big possibility.
You cut off a bit. You're talking about Osimhen, right?
Yeah.
A release clause. I don't think I'm going to pay Osimhen's money. I don't think anyone is going to pay Osimhen's money anyway. I think if they don't reduce the money, he's going to stay there. Now that one is going to carry all the way to to next month. Now, for Gyökeres and Osimhen, I would 100% take. You're asking me about Toney and Jesus. For the others, I would say yes to those questions, Osimhen and Gyökeres, because I want us to take it to the next level completely. And I think Osimhen and Gyökeres will take us to the next level. I don't think Toney takes us to that next level of, my goodness, we can score 7 goals instead of 4, and we can get a goal and beat Man City at their place. I think Gyökeres and Osimhen do that. I don't think the others really do that, unless you're getting Watkins or Isak. So in terms of paying his release clause, I don't think we are going to pay his release clause. Osimhen, I've always been doubtful about him joining, mainly because of that attitude thing. I just don't think Arteta would want him, unless we are really short on other options to the point where we have to go for him. I don't think I would like him in the team, unfortunately. So for me, also, I'm looking at Gyökeres more. Osimhen one right now, I feel like it's like a 25% chance it could happen. Very, very low. So money problem, attitude problem. We're not the only team that want in the likes of PSG are there as well. Does he really want to come to us instead of PSG? Yes, we were told that he'd want to join Arsenal, but I don't know if a PSG comes in for him. I think you'd easily say, I want to go to PSG. There's a spot there for me. I'm going to play every single day. I'm going to be the replacement for Mbappe here. I think there's a lot of reasons for him to go there, or maybe even stay at Napoli. So for Osimhen, no, I don't think you're going to go for him, unfortunately.
Now, normally, when a new signing comes, I don't know how this works. I need to talk to managers and coaches. But when a new signing comes, all of a sudden, there is a position in which they can play. And the previous season, you had an 11 that you believed in, that you wanted to win the league. But when a new signing comes in, all of a sudden, there is a position where they can play. When Aubameyang came in, straight into the starting 11. When Ozil came in, straight into the starting 11. When Sanchez came in, straight into the starting 11. The same as Julian Timber, by the way. When he came in, even Willian. I don't know how it works. But we've had an uncomfortable conversation with you, with people on this channel, on Ricardo Calafiori. When he comes in, where does he play? Who drops? So if a striker was to come in, Arsenal have invested their, let's say, £75 million in a striker, and he's clearly at finishing better than what we have. Who drops out of the starting 11?
It's going to sound crazy, Pate. So we are going to have a back three plus Calafiori going into midfield with Rice playing as a number 6. I know you're not a fan. I think Rice could play as a number 6, and then that allows you to have Saka, Trossard, Odegaard, and then 2 players up front, which will be Havertz, because I don't think Havertz will drop. I don't think Havertz will be on the bench.
No, I also don't think. Yeah, I also don't think that Kai Havertz is going to drop. That's why I think this is a very uncomfortable conversation.
So there's players there that are definitely not going to be on the bench. Saka, Odegaard, Rice, Havertz. Those ones are definitely not going to be in the bench. For Martinelli, Trossard,
are you saying we could see we could see one drop from the back line?
From the back line, from the midfield party. The back line.
Midfield. We could lose a DM.
Yeah, so Rice will be that. So Partey, Jorginho on the bench.
That's quite interesting.
So I think it could be Partey and Jorginho on the bench, and then some games it could be the strike, and then Havertz in midfield, as you've said, and then Rice still as a number 6, unless we also have the strike on the bench. Some games Havertz playing up front, and then Rice playing as a number 8. But I think most of the games it's going to be Partey and Jorginho are going to be dropped. I don't think they're going to drop Saka or Havertz or Odegaard. No, again, depends on the game. Those games that you're expecting to have a lot of chances and score, those are the games that's the lineup you're going to go for games that you need to defend more, like a Man City and a Bayern Munich. I don't think you're going to go at that formation. I think then we'll see Partey and Jorginho coming into the team, and Rice being there, and then maybe Havertz up front, and then the striker on the bench, or striker up front, Havertz on the bench, depending on the game.
Now, for me, I've already said this, and I believe in this. We are going to see massive casualties on that left-hand side. Yes, Leandro Trossard did very, very well. And I think that Mikel Merino was impressed. But I don't think Trossard is undroppable. I don't think Trossard will start the season as priority left winger. I think we'll start still in his backup position, and then we'll have Martinelli back in his position if nothing changes. But if Arsenal sign a striker this summer, if Arsenal go and get a high quality winger this summer, we are going to see massive casualties on the left-hand side. Could be Trossard, could be Martinelli. We could see one of Trossard and Martinelli becoming into a Reece Nelson, where you just don't see them for a whole season. They just become, maybe kind of an Edin Ketia. They play a few games and then they disappear. And of course, there is, you've got to factor in the fact that players like Fabio Vieira are also going to be pushing. They're going to start the season. Gabriel Jesus is going to be starting the season as well. I think we're going to see a lot of casualties on the left-hand side. Won't be surprised if Martinelli doesn't play as many games as we think he's going to have. And because many Arsenal fans like me think, well, he's going to turn it around. He's going to have a season like he had 2022-2023. We might not see that again next season, and even Leandro Trossard.
Now, what I want to see next season is a lot of rotation. I'm hoping, in my head, I'm like, obviously next season is going to happen. More games in the Champions League. Hopefully we go further in the FA Cup. Hopefully go further in the Carabao Cup. He said something when he did a video like 2 months ago. He said something about Man City's defense. You'll never really hear a player unhappy. Because if you check the stats at the end of the game, you'll see Akanji has played 25 games. Ake has played 25. Diaz has played 26. Walker has played 26. Stones has played 26. You're like, why are these games? Like, everyone plays almost the same number of games because they're rotated in the Champions League, in the FA Cup, and they go further in those competitions. So that's where I want us to be as well. There's some players there that obviously will play almost every single game. Rice, Odegaard, fine. But the other players want them to be rotated, play Saka twice. Next game, you can come off the bench. If it's not really a game that is needed, we feel like you can win without him, you give him a rest. You take him off early, you give another player 40 minutes in that game, and he feels like, okay, I'm getting game time. If you play Saka 5 games in a row, and then the 6th game you sub him off in the 50th minute, another player comes in, plays 40, and then that same player also starts the midweek Carabao Cup game plays 90 minutes. That player is happy, he's played, come on in the Premier League, he's played 90 minutes this, and then next Champions League game is starting. I want to see that kind of rotation. So I don't want to see anyone as a casualty. I get what you mean. And for these 3 positions, I'm always like, I don't really care who plays. I used to feel that way about White and Tomiyasu. I was like, whoever plays, fine. Another position is that of Martinelli and Trossard. I'm like, whoever plays, I'm absolutely fine with it, whichever game, depending on the game, if it fits them, great. But obviously, people will look at more at last season and just I prefer to look at 2 seasons in a row, both of them. Martinelli was incredible in one of them. Trossard was incredible in 1.5 of them. So we still want Martinelli's confidence to be back, because I still see some people have already given up on Martinelli for some reason. So that's I want him to have a good season. Yeah, I want him to have a good season so his confidence is back. Because if we had Martinelli scoring last season, we'd have won that league. We missed his goals and his contributions a lot last season. Like those, 5 goals? That's crazy. That's little from Martinelli. That's very little, considering we scored like 90 goals. That's very, very little. So I know he had a couple of injuries and all that. But yeah, I know what you mean. But if Havertz could play on the wing, those players would be in deep trouble. If Havertz could play on the left wing or something, I think those players would be on the bench a lot. Yeah. But I want to see a lot of rotation. I don't want us to have a fast team apart from, yes, Saliba play every game, fine. You rest 1, play 10 more, fine. So Saliba, Odegaard, Rice, have them playing every single game, and then you can rotate all the others.
Now, if we cannot sign a centre forward, because the report from SR Collins is very clear, Arsenal looking at a forward player as a priority. So that could be one that is either a winger or a centre forward. I think a centre forward is more at the priority, but a winger has also been discussed internally at Arsenal, and names like Nico Williams have been echoing around the walls at Arsenal. So let's talk about the wingers here. Williams is a difficult one. Neto is one of the players that are so lucky that he gets so injured and clubs like him the more. I don't know how that works. And then we could talk about the likes. I've seen Sané today from Football.London, although Sané was saying that he doesn't want to leave Bayern. Like, he could be forced out, because Bayern are also trying to sign Desire Doué after signing Michael Olise. That already shows you that you either are going to be a casualty or you find your way out. Let's start off with the Nico Williams one, because for me, I've already given up on Nico Williams, but not everyone has given up on Nico Williams. So in which camp are you? Are you in the camp that Barcelona could fail and we could pounce on that? Or are you on the camp like, if he doesn't want to join us in the first place, we should be walking away already?
No. I think Nico Williams is the player you should try to get, but I think it's going to be difficult. So as I've said, I've been always confident Calafiori is going to join. I'm confident Gyökeres could join. Even Merino, I feel like there's a 70% chance he could join. But Nico Williams one is very difficult. Actually, it's almost as low as how I feel Watkins and Isaac chances of joining Arsenal, because there's
That's
a
too
lot
low.
of reasons pointing out to Nico Williams wanting to stay in Spain. Especially he could say, maybe gamble for one more season, maybe a Real Madrid would want me next season. Even worse, because he'd definitely want to go to Real Madrid and play with those guys. So let's say if he's told, listen, Madrid are looking at you next season, they're going to sell Rodrigo maybe, and then you're going to be the guy to play with Mbappe and Vinicius. He'd be tempted to be like, I can wait for another year and see how it goes. And then the fact that his brother is there, his family is there, Yamal is at Barcelona, like there's a lot of reasons he'd want to stay there. At in Spain. The only reason why there's still a little bit of confidence is the money. It's not too much money. If it was like 90 million, 100 million, then I would have been saying, yeah, that one is not going to happen. But for 45, 50, there's still a slight chance, but it's going to take time. Let's hope the moment you're quiet again in this transfer window, they're cooking something special, because there's a time you're linked to Rice and then it went quiet for like 2 weeks and then you're back with him. Let's hope he just gets shot and everyone's like, oh my goodness, we've signed Gyökeres or we've signed Nico Williams. Let's hope one of those will happen in the transfer window.
With Nico Williams, guys, I'm not going to lie. I like him. Really, really do.
I do as well.
But the terms
I'm
and
not confident
conditions of
neither.
this deal,
Yeah.
the terms and conditions of this deal,
The wages as well.
they're crazy. The wages are crazy. The transfer price is crazy. His entourage thinking he should stay for one more year. Barcelona also trying to agree personal terms this week. It looks like Barcelona in the last 2 weeks have like taken a big advantage on the deal. They have really covered a lot of ground, and of course Arsenal are not covering that ground because they believe the player's priority is to play for Barca at the moment. But however, the other player that has already said, I don't mind joining Arsenal, I like that project, is Pedro Neto. Arsenal have held talks with the representatives of the player, and now with Arsenal really quickly trying to sign players, Pedro Neto, is he one that you're looking at and you're like, I won't be surprised with an exclusive from David Onstein saying Arsenal and Wolves are in negotiations?
Exclusive. Here we go. I'm scared, Cossy. I'm scared. I can't lie to you. I'm scared. Neto is very, very good, but I'm scared. And I got even more scared after I had Tomiyasu got injured yesterday. Tomiyasu got injured, and I immediately remembered Neto. Because I'm like, you can have one or two injury-prone players, but if you bring in Neto, you have like six.
Yeah.
Partey can get injured anytime. Tomiyasu, Jesus has a knee injury always. Zinchenko can get injured anytime. And then you throw in Neto, can get injured anytime. It's a little bit of a gamble. I mean, Chelsea have the likes of Nkunku, who picks up a lot of injuries. James, maybe 3 or 4 players at Chelsea who pick up injuries a lot, but not like more than 4. So Neto would be. The problem with Neto is the money. I know because he said like he's not very keen on him. But if Neto's like 25 million, I would take him still, even with the injuries. But the problem is 50 million.
50
You're taking
million,
a huge gamble. You'll really need that to work. Now, we've already, if you hadn't taken any gambles at all, then fine. But I feel like the last couple of seasons, you've taken a few gambles, including Havertz. Like, not many fans are very sure about him, but you've taken a gamble. So if you do sign Neto for 50 million, that's another gamble. You're like, I'm hoping like he doesn't pick up injuries. I hope he fully recovers and he comes and becomes the player that he is at Wolves when he's fit. It's a bit of a gamble, but I would not be surprised if we hear something on Neto like out of nowhere that Neto, here we go, he's coming to do a medical or whatever, loan with an obligation to buy or something like that. If someone like Neto, if it's like a loan with an option to buy, obligation to buy, I would love it. Now I did say we'd get a winger like with an option obligation. I think Neto would fit that. Like if we sign Neto like we signed Raya, let's see how he does this season, and then he ends up playing 32 games, I think us would be like, okay, we can actually sign this guy next season. So I think it is a possibility. But I think next signing, we're going to hear about a midfielder. You're muted.
So we have a few options in terms of forwards, and I like it because that means that you're kind of zeroing down slowly but surely. Let's see what we'll do. Rafinha has been linked. Yasa Asprilla has been linked. Leroy Sané has been linked. Do you think Sané is? Do you think there is some mileage to the Leroy Sané, story? Could have legs?
Yeah, Sané for sure. We were told mystery buy and play, even though he's not really a mystery player. Everyone knows about Sané. He's played in the Premier League before. He's played under Teta before at Man City. So there's a few reasons there. But again, Sané, would you really convince him to come to Arsenal because Saka is there? Is he going to really be happy to come on the bench? Because Saka is not a bench player. Saka is definitely a start in the team. He's like Odegaard and Rice. Like you cannot bench those players with Saliba. So it's possible, but unless it's very cheap or something.
Cossy, do you think we should have a 4-4-2 formation this season? Now, Mikel Arteta, I'll tell you this. Mikel Arteta is a very, very clean manager. Wants to have zero chaos in his games. He wants to control most of the parts of his game. So you might not see a lot of such formations unless we are, we are playing against a very good side and we are the ones defending, and we're sitting in a 4-4-2 shape in order to try to make it very, very difficult for the opponent to break us down. Do I think we should have a 4-4-2? Two players up top. I'm kind of with Glenn here. I don't think Arsenal are desperate to have a change in goal scoring. I think my problem is, can we replace one of the guys that are responsible for getting the goals for a more effective one? But I'm not trying to say let us revolutionize the way we set up. Let us revolutionize the way we try to get the goals. I think we've been pretty much successful in terms of that. So a 4-4-2, personally, there is a modern 4-4-2. The Shondike 4-4-2, definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah, if you play with two strikers, it's going to be three defenders in that lineup, and then an extra attacker or an extra midfielder in there, like to help out Rice. It's going to be something like that. I saw a lot of good comments. You can bring a couple of them up.
Okay. Kama says, in my opinion, Williams will join Arsenal and hijack Persona to sign him. I think you and Glenn are on very, very different boats, with me as well. Felix says, Neto is a good buy, but his injury record as Saka but his injury record. But as Saka backup, we can manage his injury because Saka hardly gets injured easily. But I also don't think that Neto is a guy that wants to play like 2 games in a season. I don't think.
Yeah, I think he wants to play a lot. Derek said, because we're in the winger situation, Glenn talked about Bakayoko backing up Saka. I wanted Bakayoko since even before we were linked to him. As a Saka backup, I would take him. That would actually be my first option as a backup for Saka. If he's cheaper, though, if they start asking for like 60 million, then it becomes too much. But I would take Bakayoko as a backup for Saka for sure.
If Smith Rowe is not leaving, we may have a very good left wing combination. Yeah, I kind of agree. I think that's where his future is. Maybe if he stays for Arsenal, I think that's where his future is. Do you think he might be? Mikel tried to play him into midfield the last time we played against Luton. Do you think he wants him as part of the midfield?
Yeah, I think that is the only position that is kind of open for him. Left wing, we already have too many players at the moment, and you're looking for other wingers. If he wants to, like, I know his best season for us was on the left wing, but that midfield position, that third midfield position, could be a good one for him if he does end up staying.
Beck said, I think Martinelli will do well with Ricardo Calafiori coming in. I've talked about balance many times on the channel. And I think that's what we are all hoping for, that with a player like Ricardo Calafiori coming in, we could get a little bit of an uplift on the left-hand side in terms of quality.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you actually talked about it in the podcast today morning. I remember you saying Martinelli would improve with Calafiori behind him. Saka, White, and Odegaard on the right side, they have such a good combination. In the left side, we always change stuff.
Peter says, at least Jesus should remain as backup unless either Havertz or Gyökeres or even... unless... Okay, he should remain as backup. Yeah, to either of these guys. I like the work rate. I like his work rate. Merino for ESR. I don't have a problem with Gabriel Jesus being a backup to these guys. I just think that on that wage bill, on that wage rate, he must be a backup that really brings in a lot of quality, like the way we see Leandro Trossard. And then Merino for ESR. Not bad, not really bad, because again, both of them play in different positions. But Mikel Arteta would be getting a number 8 that he really likes.
If we were using 14 players like we are last season, you do think Jesus would be part of the 14, right?
With his injuries, or without them.
Like without them, you think Arteta would have him as
Without
part
them,
of the 14?
without them, he would be part of it. Without them, would be
Alvin has said Havertz has never been serious, which I disagree. Because people are still looking at Havertz who made his debut for Arsenal. Havertz between January and May, let's be honest. He's our top 2 players. He was part of our top 2 players. He scored and assisted almost every single game. Out of like that winning streak of like 12 games or something, he like scored in like and assisted in like 11 of them.
When will the Ricardo Calafiori deal get announced? So you're going to get a here we go probably in the next 48 hours, medical in the next 48 or 72 hours, and then
I'm going to say 24 hours.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't think he should be even focusing on this one. Like it should
this one is done. Yeah, I had something that was brought up about Roma also being involved in the deal. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Oh, really?
Roma as well. Apparently, they also have an agreement with Bologna about a sell-on fee. So, Bologna, I don't know where he played first, but Roma themselves also want like, I think a 10% or something crazy like that. So we are going to pay money, and then it's going to be divided between 3 teams: Basel, Roma, and Bologna. So that's what it's holding up the deal.
Aubameyang was so phenomenal, but then he went off the rails.
Aubameyang, right?
He was good when he came in. Yeah, he was when. Like, if you're signing Aubameyang right now, what a signing that would be. Good evening, Cossy and GLEN. Thanks. If our target is winning the FA and Carabao Cup, Kai is the one. But if our target is the Premier League and Champions League, let's add Gyökeres for sure.
I mean, you can say that, but Havertz is a Champions League winner. You're the ones who've never won it.
Yeah, sure. Probably, in my opinion, we need Bakayoko, says Derek. Gyökeres is a good one. Okay. If this season Jesus scores 15 goals, it's going to be a miracle. Trust me. Sell him while value is still there. Otherwise, miracle.
That's the thing. I'm not saying Jesus. I want Jesus to stay just to score goals. That's the thing people are looking at. Arteta is not really looking at is Havertz going to score 100 goals. There's a lot of other things those players do in the team. That is why I'm asking for them to stay, not just the goals. You can, even if you don't score, you can still win the game. There's other players who can score the goals in the team.
Someone disagreed with you. Say Toney is a more clinical player than Gabriel Jesus. I think Glenn's point was, yes, he's clinical, but Gabriel Jesus has more to offer.
Yeah, not just the goals. Looking at the team play, like Bayern Munich, as we always say, Bayern Munich at home, Jesus did not score, but is the reason why he didn't lose that game.
Okay, and finally, Cabo says, good evening, guys. I like Gabriel Jesus to stay because for now, there's no striker on the market to get easily. I prefer Jesus than Ivan Toney. I wish Williams, Gyökeres. I prefer Williams. I wish Williams, Gyökeres, to accept joining Arsenal. Okay. Cossy, but will we really buy a typical striker? I think time is going to tell. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. It's been a wonderful, wonderful episode. It's a little bit cold here. I don't know why it rained the whole day, but it happens. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch up with you right in the next one. Have a blessed evening.